Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture just to see how those incidents affect our daily lives. Listen, we got us a show, honey. Listen, let me tell you about this show. I've watched the first two episodes, and honey, it appeals to my soap opera Dynasty, Falcon Crest, Dallas, Days of Our Lives, Young and the Restless type sensibilities. It is that kind of over. It's not over the top, but it's in that area, and that appeals to my senses. I'm not looking for people to be giving me Emmy award winning performances. I am looking for somebody to play the hell out of a character, even if it's over the top. And baby, I found me a show, y'all. Listen, want you all to join me on this on this quest to get through the Black Hamptons. This is a show on BET Plus. I told you I was perusing BET Plus to find me a show that I can watch. Let me see. We've got some people that are familiar with us on this show. Now, I will tell you, I've only watched the first two episodes, so I am not as familiar with the names of the characters. So I am using good old IMDb to help me through. Because believe you me, by the third and fourth episode, I'm gonna know these characters by heart, honey. But so this is a show set in the Hamptons. The Hamptons in New York. I know it's like near Martha's Vineyard. It's somewhere up in there, child. You know, I ain't hoity-toity like that. So I know geographically it's up in that area. So we have in this show, it's about the trials and tribulations of the Britton, Britton family. They seem to be very old school and generational wealth black folks up in that area. They own a bank called Amistad, one of the largest black banks in this the Black Hampton cinematic universe. They own one of the largest banks. It's called Amistad. They have been doing business with black folks in the Hamptons and everywhere else for a very long time. They're old school money. Their matriarch is played by Vanessa Bell Calloway, and the matriarch is named Carolyn Britton. Honey, she is. So I'm dating myself and telling my age, but she gives me Alexis Carrington type vibes with a hint of of Mama Pope. If you all watch Scandal, you remember Mama Pope, how Mama Pope was she had that just a hint of her. So if you think of Alexis character and Mama Pope had a baby, bloop, bloop, it would be Miss Carolyn Child. She has two sons, Malcolm and Martin. Yes. Yes, I could tell that's where she pulled them names from. Malcolm seems like he is the eldest child. He's a nice, tall, good-looking drop of water. And if I have the ability, I'll try to put their pictures up above someplace. But Malcolm is the oldest, I believe. He has a son. He is divorced. Uh, he has an ex-wife. Who's his ex-wife? Vanessa. He has an ex-wife that's named Vanessa. He is the CEO of Amistad. His brother, Martin, is the VP, vice president of the bank. He seems to be the fix it man for the family. Anything that needs to be fixed or anything that needs a business deal needs to be scouted, he's the person that does it. And then we have right now we have the Johnson family, and that family is led by what's his name? I want to call him Lamont, but I don't know if his name is Lamont. Lamont Rucker. He plays Anthony Johnson. Now, Anthony Johnson is a tech guy. He has a company called Sydney Technologies, He is Fortune 500. He has a lot of patents. People are looking at him, a lot of his patents. He has hundreds of millions of dollars. Uh, their new money. They moved out to the Hamptons, and they apparently they live next door to the Brittons or what have you. His wife, Sydney Britton, uh, excuse me, not Sydney Britton, Sydney Johnson. She's played by Elise Neal. And come on, Elise Neal, looking as good as you look. And Vanessa Bell Calloway, too. All y'all looking good. Lamont, all y'all looking good. I ain't gonna hold y'all. This is a good looking cast. I ain't gonna hold y'all. This is a good looking cast. So we have them. They have a tech company. They have moved out to the Hamptons. I think they live in New York and have a home in New York, and then they have a home in the Hamptons. They're out there for the Hamptons for the summer. They're handling business. Apparently, in the show, we see that Anthony Johnson has a battery that apparently will work well with the drone or with a self-propelling, a self-flying, say plane, because there's a company that wants, well, they initially wanted to buy the patent. Anthony says, no, I don't want to buy you to buy my patent. I want to keep and own my stuff. I'd like to have a licensing deal or work in partnership with you. So he's apparently about to work in partnership with let me see his family's name, the Singing Corporation. I guess they're high tech, high thing too. And they have offered him $500 million to work with him. So he is pretty much on his way for that. So let's get into that. Those are two families. We also have the Bowens. Now the Jeffrey Bowen, he is an attorney. Apparently his father was an attorney for the Britton family. So he is someone who was adjacent. His family has been rich, but he's also adjacent. He seems to have married into the Britton family. He has married let me see what her name is. Lord, Leslie. He has married Leslie, and Leslie is the niece, the cousin of the Malcolm and Martin. She's their cousin. So he's married into the family through there. I also want to mention too that Sydney Bowen has a sister who's played by Black China named Carrie. Karen, she's played by Black China. I said, oh, damn, Black China trying to get you a good job, child. And she's doing a decent job. Yeah. Let's see. Is there any other player in here so far? We have Reverie Chauncey Taylor. Apparently, he is the Reverend. Apparently, there must be a church, and he is the Reverend. Everyone seems to be very careful of him. He seems to know where the bodies are buried, but he's also in a position that people don't bother him. My eye is out on him. There's something about that Reverend because he spends a lot of time fishing, and we ain't seen Mrs. So and so nowhere. Let's see. Oh, remember Malcolm? I told you he had a son, and that son is named Jesse. And so we start the episode off. Now, episode one is entitled Open Season. And episode two is entitled The Slickest Player in the Game. So we're going to do a real brief overview of episode one and a brief episode overview of episode two. Now, they may mash together, but that's okay because I'm not going to try to give you all the information. I'm just going to try to set up what's going on, the big plots and things that are going on. So as the show opens, we see Jesse is having his big old party. He seems to attract the attention of a local named, ooh, what is her name? Tanya, I think her name is. Yeah, Tanya. Because she's pretty, just pretty chocolate girl. And she had on the cutest little bikini. It was silver. Just cute girl, just cute. But she attracts his attention. There is I guess it's the opening party of the summer. Like I said, she attracts his attention. He calls her up on the balcony. He's kissing her, and the next thing you know, you have the locals that come in and barge in. So you have this big tall swole of a dude come in. Tanya, Tanya. So apparently that's her boyfriend. We find out later that her boyfriend is a boxer who is on his way to the Olympic trials to try to get into the Olympics. The party, he breaks up the party. He confronts Jesse. Jesse tells him, "Hey man, you can't just be barging in here about my party." Blah 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 blah. Ends up when the boxer turns his back, Jesse pops him upside the head with a champagne bottle, which should have knocked out any doggone body, but that did knock him out. He turns around and he punches Jesse in the stomach. Big commotion happens. The police are called. Apparently, there was a 17-year-old girl there. She's drinking, so the police put Jesse in handcuffs. As he is in handcuffs, here comes grandmama, uh, Carolyn, and Uncle Martin. They come in and they defuse the situation. They headbutt with the police officer. And you'll find out too, the police officer is Sergeant Lane. Now, you remember I talked about the boxer? We find out that that's his son, which is telling that the son is there and come get the girl, but the police don't see them. Mhm. But anyway, so because of that commotion and because Jesse was irresponsible and didn't tell everybody, his grandmother is pissed. And mind you, again, you remember how I described her, a little bit of Alexis Carrington with a touch of Mama Pope. So she is pissed and she has all her kids just walking on pins and needles because she's upset. I don't know where Mr. Britton is. I don't know if he's still living or not. I don't know exactly what's going on with him, but I don't think he's living. But we don't see him, or in other words, I haven't seen him in these two episodes. They haven't made a big mention about him. Anyway, they diffuse the situation. The next day comes, and we see Malcolm, and I can't tell who. You remember Jennifer Freeman? If you remember, You Got Served. She was the girl on there. She plays on him. She plays in here, and she is Kimberly. I think she's somebody. I think she's Malcolm's assistant. I'm not really sure because I thought maybe she was a daughter because she is very much enmeshed with the Britton family, but they haven't really spoken about what her position is. Uh, because I thought she was Martin's wife, honestly, because she was sitting at the table and she's eating with them and all this other stuff. So I'm not really sure what her position, but regardless, she goes out to the boat where Malcolm is, and she tells him that your mama wants you, basically. So he's having to go home, and she tells him what happens. He comes home. He calls Jesse. He tells Jesse to meet him at the door. Jesse does that. He basically tells Jesse, "Listen, you messed up and you keep messing up, and you need to get yourself together." He just basically tells you when you do stuff, you got to have somebody to have your back. You call me, you call your uncle is very fond of you, so make sure you call somebody so when something like this happens, no one is blindsided. We were blindsided last night, and now I got to hear your grandmama fussing and hollering and all this other stuff about what went on last night. So I think Jesse gets it, not really sure. So then we pan over to the Johnsons. Now, the Johnsons are at their house. Again, I remember I talked about this $500 million deal. They're in the process of making love. The telephone rings. The people from the Sing Corporation call, and boom, bam, boom. They want to meet with him for a $500 million deal with the Sing Corporation. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. Then we pan over to the Bowens. You remember I talked about the Bowens, and Leslie is the niece of the Brittons. Apparently, her husband is an attorney. He has been obtained. I don't know what the technical or the legal term, but he has a client, which is Mr. Simpson, Ernest Simpson, who is the neighbor of the Brittons and the neighbor of the Johnsons. So he has the house in between them. Apparently, he is willing to sell that home. And usually, what it seems like, what the way that the Britons have positioned themselves, they're very concerned about who lives in this 2-mile radius of the Black Hamptons. They're very concerned about who lives where. They're very concerned about making sure that that 2 mile strip stays black. So if anybody is selling their home, they are supposed to know who is supposed to be selling, because they want to be able to make sure that whoever gets there understands that, or there's no corporation moving in and then there'll be white people sitting next to them, because they don't want any of this land to go to any white people. And they're very adamant of that. And so we find out that Mrs. Bowen Leslie is the president of the homeowner association. So that's where we meet up. They're having a meeting at the homeowners association, but her and her husband are walking to the meeting, and that's when he tells her that the Simpsons are selling their home, and that the Simpsons wanted it to be announced at the meeting. And she's upset because she's like, why didn't you tell me? He said, because he's like, this is what my client wanted. And so he asked her, did she want to be the realtor of this deal? And she's like, yes. He says, because this is what my client wants. We work for the seller. We don't work for the Brittons. We work for Mr. Simpson. So I need for you to understand and know that, because this is a six-figure commission fee. I think they get like 10%. So if they sell this home for 6, 7, $8 million, you're talking about 600,000, 800 some $1,000. So he's trying to ensure her uh, that the client is the one that's important. All right. So she has a little trepidation because, she knows that she's got to sell this stuff and her aunt is going to be sitting there listening to it. And indeed, that's what she does, honey. Because the first order in business was to embarrass the folks that's living out there in the Hamptons and they paid their home association fees. So she quietly lets them know, listen, y'all don't pay y'all fees by the end of this meeting. We're going to put your name on the website. And honey, you know how, certain class of people, they will talk about you for eons, about your name coming up on their website. Like they do. But anyway, that was funny to me. So she announces that the property is going to be sold. Baby, Carolyn Britton had a hissy fit in the thing. The Simpsons and I, we had a deal that if anybody was going to sell, they were going to let me know. Da 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 da. And that's not what happened. That's not how it went down. And the Johnson was like, well, cool. Hey, we could buy the place. And so they were like, how much is they selling it for? And Mr. Bowen, who's played by Brian White. And if you remember Brian White, he was, if you saw Stomp the Yard, he was Big Brother in Stomp the Yard. He basically tells them, listen, he wants $5.5 million. He says, well, bet. He said he wants $5 million for the property. So he was like, bet, we'll pay $5.5 million. And the Britton brothers was like, 6 million. And so Carolyn Britton shut that down. She said, because we're not going to make this public, uh, you need to let me know about when these kind of deals are happening. And, she was talking to her niece because the meeting is over with. Sorry, y'all. The meeting is over with. She summons her niece into her home and she tells her, you messed up. You were supposed to let me know when this happened. And she says, well, I didn't know anything about it until we walked to the home association meeting. And so Miss Carolyn tells Leslie, you get your husband in line because he's acting like he doesn't know who we are to do business and stuff like that. And so she leaves. Leslie leaves after that admonishment. And so Carolyn's like, how come you all didn't know about this? Well, apparently they didn't know because one of the things that Mr. Bowen, Attorney Bowen, has done is that he has no mortgages. He has no big dealings or business with their bank. And we find that most of the people that live in the Black Hamptons, they have business with that bank, Amistad. So they got their mortgages and all that other stuff with that bank. So basically, technically, the bank owns the mortgages to all these people's homes. Mm, that's something interesting. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And so she's trying to figure out because, again, the Johnsons may be new money, but they got long money. And she knows that. They're old money, and they have power and reputation. But they own a bank. They've got a board, so they can't just be buying stuff willy nilly without the approval. So I'm quite sure that they have personal monies, but still. So the niece decides to go over to um let me back up. Remember when I talked about the police officer that got his face crunched because Carolyn and Martin shut everything down? He was at the home association meeting too, because apparently he is the liaison from the police department, because apparently the police have been overzealously policing the people in the Black Hamptons, and so they have complained about it, and they wanted a black police officer. So he is the black police officer. Now I'm moving into episode two, the slickest player in the game. So I'm going to be talking about that episode along with this episode. I'm just going to roll in, but I want to give you a little heads up that that's what's about to happen. So basically, Carolyn, Leslie go over to the Johnsons' house to, in Leslie's mind, she was trying to broker a deal with the Johnsons, because one of the main things and the reason why the Johnsons want to buy that property next door is that they want a pool. They want to put a pool in their yard. And so they figure if they own that property, they can move the property line back from that property and be able to put a pool. And that was the reason. So when Leslie comes in, she says, well, the land on the other side of you, excuse me, is there. You can purchase this part of it, a part of that, and that could be a place where you could put your pool. Honey, Sydney is like, nope. We want this particular property because it's come up for sale. And we want to put a bid. And so, baby, let me tell you something. The way Carolyn Britton walked into those people's house and didn't open her mouth and didn't speak or anything like that, just walked up in her house. I thought, I was looking at her and I was like, I know they didn't let this woman be like this, but they didn't. They said their piece. They said that they wanted to buy the land, and since because Carolyn Britton dismissed Sydney in her own home, so since you don't speak with sense, I'm gonna just speak with your husband. And honey, that shut that down because Mr. Johnson said, you make me disrespect my wife in her own home. You gonna have to leave. And she was shocked that he said that. Very shocked. But anyway, that meeting did not net anything. So what is Carolyn's response? She's so pissed off at Sydney, she calls her ex-daughter-in-law, which is Vanessa, who was married to Malcolm. She has told her that she will pay her if she will seduce Mr. Johnson so that she can then acquire this property, because she wants to put a wedge in the marriage so that that the marriage would break up, so that Sydney wouldn't be worrying about the property anymore. Well, baby, we move into the next episode. So basically, that next episode, we kind of find out relationships. One of the things that we find out in relationships is that the daughter-in-law, the ex-daughter-in-law, is still in love with her ex-husband. Apparently, they broke up because Carolyn didn't want them to be together. I guess once that she produced the heir, a son, Carolyn had no, she didn't care nothing about the woman, and she wanted them to break up. But also, I'm seeing too, uh, Malcolm is currently dating someone named Morgan. And when I looked up Morgan, let me see, and I don't know IMB. Here we go. When I looked up who Morgan was, let's see. Yeah. Morgan is this guy. So apparently they have Malcolm as bisexual, because that's the only Morgan I see on here. And as I went down through, I didn't see anybody else named Morgan. So apparently Malcolm is bisexual. His ex-wife don't even care. Because you can tell that they have love for each other, but and they're friendly, and this is why they're friendly, because apparently in the divorce decree, she's supposed to be paid alimony for a number of years, and he's supposed to deliver or come over once a month on the first of the month. And apparently, the first of the month, the first day of the month, they have sex with each other. and she's okay with that. But she's also trying to get back with her family. She wants to get back. There's no reason. I don't think she really cares about whether or not that he's having sex with whomever he's having sex with. She just wants to be that's a rich family, and she wants to get her place back in a rich family. So she's doing whatever she needs to do, and she has agreed to do what Carolyn asked her to do. The reason why I make that important because she saw Mr. Johnson on the street. She acted like now this is Vanessa. Vanessa was acting like her foot was hurt, and baby, she convinced AJ. I'm calling him AJ, but she convinced him to take her home. He does that. She seduces him with some Wyclef Jean tickets because apparently Wyclef is going to be in concert, but she only has one ticket. And he says, well, I've never been to a concert without my wife, but she's convinced him to be able to go to this concert without his wife. And I'm like, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Johnson, you know better than this. You know better than this. She gets inside, and that's where her ex-husband is. They have sex. She mentions Morgan, yada, yada, yada. So basically, on the second episode, uh, the Johnsons are really, really wanting this home. So they go to Mr. Bowen's house, Attorney Bowen, to talk to him about this stuff. And he kind of stalls him. And they're like, wait a minute. We offered almost twice the amount that this property is worth. How come we haven't heard from Mr. Simpson about it? And so she was like, well, Mr. Simpson's a busy man and we haven't gotten in contact with him. And when I get in contact, he was like, I need to know why Mr. Johnson was like, I need to know why you are stalling. Why are you not talking with your client about an offer that is almost double of what he asked for? That doesn't make any sense. And he says, I know that the Brittons want this property. And he says, so I really need, I really need some answers about what's going on. We are very serious about getting this property. Well, the reason why Mr. Bowen is stalling is because his wife is mixing business with pleasure. And she's telling him that if she doesn't get convince them, the Johnsons not to buy the property, she's not going to give him no tail. The dumbest thing in the world, baby. This is the dumbest thing in the world, but this is what she has put up. And he did make an effort to try to stall them. The Johnsons leave the home, and Sydney was like, listen, these people are playing chess while we are playing checkers. They have a lot of information that we don't have. We need to find a way to get directly to the seller. And who do they seem to see? Who do they see walking down the street as they're talking about this? The good old Reverend Mr. Chauncey. So I'm calling him AJ. This is what I'm going to call him instead of Mr. Johnson. AJ goes and talks to the pastor. And what does he do? He gets a meeting with Mr. Simpson. He invites Mr. Simpson over for a barbecue. Gets in there, they get kicking and talking and laughing and stuff like that, having a good time. And so he was like, he's talking to him like, hey, you're a busy man and stuff like that. And he says, when you get a chance to go over my offer. And he's like, your offer? And he was like, yeah. I spent, I gave Mr. Bowen, said that he hasn't been able to get in contact with you. He's like, I just talked to them, man. What are you talking about? So he tells him what his offer is. And they made an agreement for that offer then. So they make an agreement about that offer. Everything is going to be good. Here's another side plot. So Carol and Britton kind of know something's going on over there at the house. And so she is talking with her son Malcolm, telling him that make sure you do whatever it is you need to do because we need to get this property. So there's going to be something going on probably in episode 3 that they're going to hold over Mr. Simpson's head to make sure that they get that property, which is concerning to me because I'm really curious as to why Carolyn wants this property so bad. I know why the Johnsons want the property, but I don't know why Carolyn wants the property so bad. I don't know why. So the last thing that I want to really talk about is these little subplots that are going on. You remember I talked about Jesse and I talked about Tanya, and I talked about Tanya dating the boxer. And you remember I also told you that the boxer's father is the police officer, the sergeant, the liaison. Well, baby, Jesse's mom, which is Vanessa, lives went out to her boat or something, and then she heard a commotion and she heard noises. So she called the police, and the police sergeant comes over and she explains to him that, I've had problems with people vandalizing my boat, vandalizing my thing, and I'm not going to take anything. She says, I hear people in there. So he goes in there, and what do you know? He finds Jesse and Tanya in there uh, just sexing each other down. Well, he knows that she is dating his son. And so he politely escorts her off the boat. There's no conversation, but he knows his son is very much in love with this girl because he's come to parties looking for her. So, and it's derailing his opportunity because his head is not in the game as far as going to the Olympics. So, I am curious as to what's going to happen in that regard. I'm also curious about AJ taking those tickets from Vanessa to see where that goes. I'm also interested in Mr. Simpson as to why he's selling the property. Um, there was a side plot that happened in the first episode. Uh, apparently, there is a friend. Let me see. Let's see. Because I want to try to keep these people together. I think his name is Peter. Peter is their friend, and Peter. There was a doubles match, and Peter invited AJ to be his doubles partner with Malcolm and Martin. With Malcolm and Martin, they just a little friendly banter back and forth. Just how guys do. They just go back and forth, ribbing each other and stuff like that. Well, apparently, Peter and AJ were beating Malcolm and Martin, and they did a shot, and they just ribbing each other. And AJ says, "Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?" Malcolm gets real. I mean, he is so upset that he was about ready to fight. So there's something interesting or something going on about who is your dad. So are you meaning to tell me, Miss Carolyn, if you don't know who your baby daddy is? Mhm. Who do I think? So that's an interesting plot. So the thing that I'm gonna leave you all with, because we are at the 30 something mark on this, is there's something going on with Malcolm in regards to his father and who his father is. So there's sounds like there's a question of paternity. There's a question as to why Mr. Simpson is so hell bent and determined to sell this property. Is something going on as to why Carolyn is so hell bent and determined to purchase the property? Let's see. Is there any other subplot? Those are the big things that I'm interested right now. Those are the big things. So I just want to give you my overview of this and let you know that I'm enjoying this show and I will continue to review it. Because since I had the first episode and the second episode bound up in this one thing, this is why we have like a 30-minute video. But tell me, are you all watching this show? Do you all have BET Plus? If not, I will be more than happy to be your eyes and ears on these shows that are going over there on BET Plus. The Black Hamptons, honey. The Black Hamptons. It's an interesting show. It's an interesting show. I'm telling you, it is an interesting show. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know how you feel. Let me know you're out there. I know you are because I see you watching. I see the analytics. I see y'all watching the show, and I'm appreciative of it. Uh, please tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell your coworkers. Hell, tell them folks you can't even stand that I'm over here making these videos. Help me help you see me. Hit that subscribe button. It's down here. And also hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified when I do videos. I am on a continuous commitment to do a video a week with this show. Will be my weekly video. And also I think in the 14th, it's either 14th or the 15th, Atlanta comes back. So you'll get 2 videos a week because I will be reviewing 2 shows in the month of September. All right, people. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. I am so happy to be able to give this information out to you all. And as always, people,
Bye-bye.